Okay. Hi, Keith, and thank you so much for being here with me. I know you're quite busy. I appreciate
No
it.
worries. Thank you for inviting me. Yeah, no, it's lovely to speak to you. Yeah, all good.
Great. So the story, long story short, is that I was actually going through some pictures this morning, and I realized that in June last year, I came to the physical training company looking for a personal trainer to help me with my back injury. And I remember chatting with you a bit. I think Chris was there, and then I started having a chat with Carlo. And it's been more than a year, so I'm quite excited. And there is something that I always wanted to ask you, and I've never asked you, so I'll do it now. Um, was injury and rehab something that you always wanted to do and in Dubai, or is something that just happened to happen, you know?
Is it something I always wanted to do?
Yeah.
Um, no. So initially, when I was younger and I was in school, I was like into sports and all that kind of stuff. So the business world and all that didn't really interest me. I actually did a sports management degree initially and didn't really like that. Then I became a bottom of the tier, low level fitness instructor in like 2004. And I realized that I didn't really want to be a PT particularly, because I didn't see the career path in that. So I traveled around the world, blah, 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 did all that. And then I went back to university when I was 23 to do a sports injury degree. And my plan was to not be a PT and to go into the world of like clinical settings and sports clubs and that kind of stuff. So when I was in the UK, then I did a couple of years working in professional football. And then I worked for the British military, rehabbing guys that were coming back from Afghanistan, 2012 and 13. And then what happened after that was Chris, who you met, my business partner here. He had got a job in Dubai and come out to work. And I just came out on my second holiday to Dubai at the time. And his boss offered me a job. And one of those things where all the kind of things aligned. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Why not? So that was 2013. And because they didn't have an injury rehab specialist, they were a sports performance gym, dealing with like power and speed development and training athletes and all those kind of buzz jargon words. And back in 2013 in Dubai, there was nobody doing that. Fitness HQ hadn't opened up. Train SF hadn't opened up. Fitness First was down by the airport, and that was pretty much it. Warehouse had one facility, and that was all. So we were way ahead of the game in the performance world, but that job eventually 4 of us left and set up the physical training company. And effectively, the only way, instead of me setting up an injury rehab clinic in this gym, I just had to be a rehab trainer. So that kind of thrust me back into the classification of a PT. And I've been like injury rehabbing PT people, ever since then. So just one of those things where some choices were made, and some choices were made for me, and here we are.
Yeah, that's amazing. So basically, when you founded with Chris, the physical training company was more or less with the same purpose, or it was to have everything, PT and rehab and everything?
So there was a team of about 10 coaches in that previous job, and one summer, just a lot of the guys started leaving. So 4 of us decided to leave, and we knew that we didn't want to work for anybody else. And we knew that the special thing we had in that job where our clients all knew each other and they had the community vibe. It wasn't like you just came down to meet your PT. You came down to meet the group, the gang. So we knew we wanted to replicate that aspect of it. So we set up the company then, and back then we were freelancers, and we had big ambitions, naive ambitions to be the region's #1 in training, education, and blah, blah, blah. So pretty quickly we learned how difficult this industry is. And the business was effectively like a freelancing company up until we moved to where we are now in 2018. And then it wasn't really until the lockdown closed us down and we had to reshape the business when everything reopened that one of the guys had left already. Another guy had told us, one of the partners had left. We had a couple of employees at this stage, but one of the partners had left to do his own thing. He wanted to train celebrities and professional athletes, so he's doing that now. And then another guy told us after the lockdown that we had way more hunger for the business. He just wanted to effectively marry his fiance and leave in a couple of years once lockdown was over. So Chris and I just focused on the business then and building it's a bit cliche to say, but we just wanted to build it around a destination for people to come and like hang out and at the same time get healthier without really trying to push like sales and marketing, and without really trying to be a
I
just a
think it's like a family.
yeah,
More
because
or less.
that's
Yeah.
because training, when you're in the fitness industry, you're selling people's vulnerability back to them. So they tell you all of their insecurities, what they're weak at, what they're not happy about their body, what they wish they could do better, how they used to be in the past and they've let things slip, how parenting or whatever has got on top of them. So and then they got to part with a lot of their hard-earned cash to trust somebody who they maybe have never met before, and then meet that person hours and hours and hours over the next few months and hopefully change their life. And a lot of people are actually expecting to fail. So if you can strip down all the barriers to those problems that people feel about the gym being intimidating, or just people not saying hello to them when they come into the gym, like that makes a massive difference. Things like that just make people feel welcome, and then get them coming down to get them comfortable in the place, and then we can start to change whatever goals or move them towards their goals. So it was initially just about stripping down the barriers and all of the like apprehension that people would have about starting a new training program.
That's nice, because when I remember when I came in, so I just finished my had a physiotherapist for my back because I couldn't walk for I think 2 weeks properly. So I was really looking for someone who I could train with, but in the same time can be mindful of what I was going through, you know. And as you said as well, I think the feeling that I had when I came to your gym, it was just everybody knew everyone. It was like this very nice vibe, and I think it was one of the reasons that I came. Besides the fact that what I like the most is that when we started chatting about my back, he also inquired, you know, for what happened with my back, like if I have any X-ray or anything, which for me made me trust even more. And I wanted to ask you, throughout your practice and everything, do you have any, let's say, top 5 common injuries that you encounter most frequently?
Yeah, definitely back pain, number 1. Knee pain, probably number 2. Outside of that, the rest of them all kind of fade away into relatively infrequent. But the big ones are back pain, knee pain, maybe some neck pain or shoulder pain would be next, somewhere in the outside top 5. But it's really just people from kind of sedentary lifestyles, or they're sitting too long, and then at the weekend they go try and move, or their their back doesn't like it. Or chronically stressed people often present with a lot of pain, because the pain and stress are sort of very closely connected. And what they just need is they need to begin an exercise program that won't irritate their back, and then exercise becomes a medicine for their issue. But if they start too intense, or if they start with the wrong exercises, or following a program that maybe isn't very appropriate, then that's actually going to make them a bit worse. So they want to trust a person, or they want to trust a process that that helps them, say, lose a bit of weight while they have a back injury, or get a muscle, or get back playing a sport while having a back issue or a knee issue. So yeah, definitely most common is back and knee. Maybe I would say back edges it.
Yeah, it always feels, I mean, I remember when I had mine, I was super stressed. And one thing that I realized that I had to work on, and especially when I started working with Carlo, it was my mindset. And what I wanted to ask you, from what you saw on your own clients and other clients, how can mindset, play a role in recovery? Because for me, at least, I didn't realize that how important was it. you know?
So I could talk about this for days, but a big part of pain resides in the nervous system. It resides in the brain. So take your back, for example. You feel the pain in your back, but really what's happening is there's an area of your brain, that little brain tissue real estate, that's responsible for the information that happens from your back. So the back info gets sent up, and when your back wants to move, there's one little part of your brain that activates, and that tells the body and the rest of the brain what's going on. So for people who are chronically stressed or chronically, let's say in a negative mindset, whether it's past traumas, whether it's past experiences, but just someone who, let's just stay in the stressed realm, because what that will do is when you stress your whole nervous system through finance, job, no sleep, poor diet, whatever, overtraining maybe, the whole nervous system becomes way more what's called sympathetic. And sympathetic is our fight or flight response area. And parasympathetic is our rest, relax, digest, and reproduce. So everything we do in the day is a bit of a stress, just breathing, hearts pumping blood, your brain thinking, moving around. So everything is a bit of a stress. We have this massive zone of tolerance of our evolutionary success that we can take on a load of stress.
Mm-hmm.
So as people, we take right up to the threshold of what we're able to do. And that cognitive stress, let's just say, that's all lives in the brain, that resides in the brain. So it's better for our body, for survival, to be a little bit more paranoid towards threats than sort of inconsiderate. So it's better to think that a tree is a bear rather than thinking that a bear is a tree. Because if you think a tree is a bear, you're going to survive. It's only a tree. But if you think a bear is a tree and you walk past it and it's a bear, you're going to have a problem. So evolutionary speaking, we're wired for survival. We're wired to be a little bit more sensitive to threats. So that means that as we're stressed, we're a bit more towards the threat end, which is your sympathetic end, your pain, your stiffness, your fight or flight, your stress, your anxiety, all that is sort of lives in that same domain. Your body gets a bit stiff, then you can feel maybe a bit of a tightness, and then you start to feel, let's say you have all the history of a back pain. So your back is maybe a little bit more sensitive. And when I say your back, again, I mean the area of your brain that's responsible for the back. That area of the brain is a little bit more sensitive to potential threats than the rest of your brain. Your elbow, your shoulders, no problem. So if that's, say, bubbling at like a 7 out of 10 on the threat scale, and this magical arbitrary pain scale happens at an 8 out of 10. If we take on stresses that are usually bring us up to a 6, our day to day, and then you start to feel stress, you start to feel like pain, but the brain, so that's in the whole brain. The whole brain processes all your stress, your finance, your COVID stress, your job, your relationship, all that. If that's bubbling at like a 6 out of 10, and then suddenly we take on extra stress for whatever reason, the usual overall brain goes from a 6 to a 7. But that bit of brain tissue that's responsible for your back, that goes from a 7 to an 8. And now we feel a bit of pain in the brain that's responsible for the back. So while it's actually in the brain, it feels like it's our back. Does that make sense kind of so far?
Yeah, definitely.
So what we then have to do is mindset. Is if people don't understand that, and that's totally fine because it's neurophysiology, and why would anybody understand that? So mindset, coming back to your question, if you can understand that process, and you can know that if you walk around the mall all day and your back starts to hurt, so what's happened? You haven't really ripped or torn or slipped or protruded a disc. What's after happening is your nervous system, because you've been walking around all day, you're a little bit fatigued, because you're maybe not fed, not hydrated, you're potentially stressed just because the amount of sensory overload that you've got in the mall, or you're under pressure for something. So that pushes your whole nervous system. So remember, rest, digest, relax is down at one end. So food will take you towards the relaxed end. Hunger, fatigue will take you towards the other end. So your nervous system can shift to a more sensitive situation, which then brings the pain from the subconscious into the conscious brain, into your forefront, where you're actually, now I can feel it. Does that make sense?
I'm trying to think now because last time when I went to get this back pain comes and goes. Apparently, I will always have it coming and going. And when I was talking to this orthopedist, he told me something that it was quite interesting. And now I'm trying to put all together as I hear you talking. He said, when you exercise, try as well to exercise through pain. So even if you feel a bit of discomfort, because for me, even when I started training with Carlo, the slightest thing that I felt, I stopped. And my body was into, okay, this is not safe, we're stopping. And I remember I was doing some things with Carlos, so he put me in front of the mirror to do the exercise without any resistance or anything, just to train my brain to see it, that I can do it, so at least I can relax through it. And to me, at the beginning, I thought he's making fun of me. I was like, what is happening here? But now I realize, and it's quite interesting because I felt it, how intense is the whole response. Just the thought of it blocks everything, you know.
Yeah. So the next step after exactly what you said, like what, so you have back pain. Do you exercise through pain or do you not? Like, how do we know that? How do we know for sure? We're not X-ray machines. How do we know for sure that we're not causing any more damage? Mm-hmm. So there's a way to kind of migrate that fine line. And what you effectively need to do, your brain has a map of your body, and it understands that certain things are going to cause it pain and certain things are not. So we need to tell it over. So when it has this pain pattern where whenever you bend over to put your socks or your shoes on, you get pain. But if you lie on your back, bring your knees into your chest, no pain. So your back is bending in both scenarios, but one causes pain and one doesn't. So there's certain ways we can begin to build a picture where your back is actually way more robust than people might think. So what we need to do is we need to send info to the brain as much as we can that it likes, that's happy, that it can move these joints in ways that are not going to cause it any tissue damage. Mm-hmm. And the key to this is that this lives in the subconscious. This is, you might think about it properly to begin with. You might look in a mirror, you might tell yourself and with words in your thoughts over and over again, but no matter what way we look at it, the longer term imprinting is the neuroplasticity that's in our subconscious brain. So it's going to take a lot longer to really get through this, if depending on how long you've been in the pain. So for the doctor to tell you that you should exercise through pain is not necessarily always correct. But what it means, what I would interpret that is movement is going to begin by moving the joints, by moving the proprioceptors, by moving the skin, by moving the eyes and the vestibular system, and telling the brain all this information that we can do all these things, and the back doesn't explode. Then the back begins to lower its interpretation, well, rather the brain begins to lower its interpretation of the information being sent up from the back. So it begins to let you do more before it flips the safety switch and tells your body that there's pain happening. So one of the things you could do is you can use the mirror to tell yourself visually, but also your body and your brain will communicate way more on the proprioceptive level, on the nociceptive level, in your subconscious all day, every day. The same kind of way, a good example is to think, as me and you are sitting here right now, our temperature system is telling our brain about the temperature. We're not thinking about it. You're not thinking, I am warm enough or I am too cold. But what's going to happen is the information is going to be processed every split second, which is why you suddenly feel a breeze. So every split second, the brain is getting the info and it's disregarding it. But when the temperature drops, now the amplification is different in the brain. And now the brain goes, actually, now we have a problem. I need to put on a jacket, or I need to turn the AC off or put the heating on, whatever it is, because this is now a threat. So basically it moves from our subconscious to our conscious. It goes from the back to the forefront of the mind. And now we actually think about it. So as you're sitting there and as I'm sitting there and anybody who's listening or reading or watching, whatever, everything is being processed by the brain. But every now and again, it crosses the threshold of perception and then we perceive it. So that's effectively what we have to try and do with the body when you're moving, is you move it in a way where it's being fed info and it's processing it and it's going, this is great, this is great, this is great. The second thing that happens is that frees you physically up to then do more work. So we can overload the muscles, we can overload the joints in a happy, healthy way to increase the capacity of the muscles, which then pushes away the point at which we fatigue, which means fatigue and tiredness doesn't feed in to make you more stressed. You might be, you might be this tired walking 5 kilometers. If we get you really fit, you might be 7 out of 10 tired. if you walk 5 kilometers. If we get you really fit, that 7 becomes a 3. And now we can walk 10 kilometers, or we can walk 15 kilometers. So the point at which you reach the 7 is now way off at like 15, 20K. So that 7 may also create pain. Do you know what I mean? You might cross the threshold of fatigue, so now you're starting to create a pain pattern. So freeing up the tissue, removing the restriction, controlling the weak link, fixing the movement pattern, and then overloading, obviously appropriately with all of the science and stuff that we know as the fitness industry people that we are, just getting the muscles stronger, or getting the human, a better way to say stronger, just increasing capacity, whether it's to walk, run, jump, whatever. So that fatigue happens way later and pain just never arises anymore. And then there might be like, you might never be able to deadlift 100 kilos, but like, so what? Who cares?
Yeah, true. This is what happened to me, and it was interesting because I thought that, okay, once I start finishing this, I will never feel pain. I will go through the exercise. It will never happen again. And I realized that every once in a while, no matter how properly I train, and I think it's very important. And that was for me the reason that I came to you guys as well, is that I realized that one thing to prevent me from going back to the injury thing, it was to execute the exercise properly. So I think for me, what made me feel a bit more comfortable is that if Carla was telling me this is, I don't know, you do Romanian deadlifts if I have to do it or something, this is the correct form. For me, somehow it made me feel comfortable enough to say, okay, I trust him. I know that if I will do this correctly, it will not cause me anything pain wise. And I wanted to ask you throughout because I think for me, it took me a few months to work with for my pain and everything. Do you think, are there any tips and tricks that you can share with me regarding preventing this type of injuries? Let's say, I don't know, okay, maybe someone doesn't have any problems with their discs or anything, but still they start feeling some back pain. Can they do something somehow before it becomes a bit worse?
Yeah. So one of the things you said there very interestingly, which is exactly kind of feeds into it, is you felt comfortable enough to trust Carlo with the things you were doing, right? Forgetting about the specific exercise, you were like, you know what? I'm happy here. I trust you. Let's go. So your stress, anxiety, and apprehension was less. So your nervous system was a happier scenario. It's in a happier state. Also, you're coming into the gym with a plan in place. So you're feeling better about that. You're exercising at a threshold that you're comfortable with. You're not getting absolutely broken. So you're leaving feeling good because you just had a nice workout. But also, you know, I can buy into this. I can come back next week. This plan is, I'm really happy about this plan. And the simple feeling of I'm really happy and having a plan in place will reduce your stress levels. Just about this one metric. It's not going to fix your finance. It's not going to fix your relationship, whatever. But just this one little metric that adds to that overall daily stress thing that we try and process as humans can be enough to bring you under the pain threshold. So now you can exercise, you can move, and you can start to get stronger and blah, blah, blah. So we can fix just this one movement bracket on all of your stressful input. Is there a way to do things before things get too painful? For sure, there definitely is. The big things would be, let's say you are feeling a little bit of stiffness and a little bit of a backache, and you don't really know, do I need to go get a scan? Do I need to go to a physio, or what do I need to do? So I would first look at what are you doing for your exercise program, as in what level of movement are you doing? And often, honestly, the answer is 0. So there's your first win. Or the answer is I run 3 times a week. So you go out on the road and you run in a straight line, your body moves straight for an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours a week. Great. What rotation do you do? What new novel information are you sending to your brain? Not a lot. You sit at a desk and you move straight. So let's start to add in some extra movements, yoga, Pilates, rotations, something at a very low controlled threshold. So you're sending new info to your brain and you're showing the brain all these twists and turns are absolutely great for my body. They're not causing me any damage. So I can reduce that pain. But then also you're increasing your mobility through yoga and your strength through yoga. Both is the same thing through Pilates. In the gym, you've got a program that has a lot of rotations, a lot of side bends, a lot of individual leg stuff where We're changing it slightly. Basically, we're adding a new and a novel stimulus into what's happening. So if you can do that and the pain begins to diminish, there's your solution. And some people don't actually want to hear that. They want to hear, I need to know 3 things I want to do, or who's the best physio? Who can I just lie on a table and have them fixed? And it's like, it doesn't work like that. Obviously, I don't know who your audience is. We're probably preaching to fitness enthusiasts already, but it's people who don't necessarily understand how important it is to move. And it doesn't matter what you do, as long as you move and you move at a threshold that your body is capable of moving at. So don't try and run a 20K run in like 4 weeks, Start off super slow, super easy. You have to enjoy it. Your body has to like it.
That's very nice. And I like what you said. You have to move and enjoy. And I know you're doing a lot of other activities. And when it comes to motivation, because I think by the end of the day, a lot of people, especially nowadays, in Dubai it's very hot. We all stay indoors mainly. There's not much possibility of doing outdoor activities. And sometimes it's hard to get off the couch and go to the gym. And I know, you find all of these motivational things, but the reality is it's not easy to start going to the gym regularly. You're doing it today, tomorrow. So I wanted to ask you, where do you get your motivation from? It's
Where do I find?
Yes, it's something specific that I don't know, you fall asleep with a podcast, you wake up with a podcast or something like this.
So my personal motivation for exercising used to be sports performance and all that kind of stuff. And it led me to a certain level of, we'll say, like success in sport, where like I enjoyed being fit and I enjoyed the feeling of being able to accomplish things. And I'm lucky enough that I live and work in a gym, so I can do these things without a commute. I have very low barriers to entry for just going to do a gym session. And I know on days when I'm not feeling good, I just do a little bit. On days when I feel great, I do a little bit more. But I think for the things that I don't enjoy doing that I end up doing is, for me, it's like put a goal. So yeah, put a goal in place. So booking an event or booking a run or booking a trip. Doesn't matter if you're not ready for it. No one books a marathon when they're ready to run a marathon. You book it when you're not ready, and then you get ready, and then you figure it out, and you either show up and you win or you come last. But it doesn't matter because you did the thing you wanted to do. But so that's what I do. Like I'll book. So right now it's July in Dubai. It's super hot. I've written it off completely from running outdoors. So this is almost like my cheat month, where now I'm not too stressed about my diet. I'm sleeping in at weekends because I've got a couple of things in November and in February that I know I'm pretty much going to sacrifice all my weekends in a few months' time. So let me just be lazy this month. It's too hot. I'll walk the dog. I'll do the gym. And that's it. And I actually have a bit of a shoulder issue. I'm trying to get better. So this is a good time for things to be super quiet. So, but for other people, I think it's different. I think you can be either goal orientated, where you just put a goal down and then you go do it and you just enjoy the experience. Some people don't have goals because they don't have self-belief. So they need to start doing much smaller things that they can achieve, so that they begin to teach themselves that they're an achiever, a physical achiever. So they might be great at their job. They might be great with numbers or great with their family, great moms and great dads, but they don't have any sort of physical belief in their ability to lose 20 kg. So they need to start doing small goals, real small goals, and just achieve that. But they need to like really be proud of themselves and really absorb that and say to themselves, all right, well, if I can do that, what's the next thing? And until they start to believe, holy, I'm actually somebody who can do this. This science jargon actually works, and it works for me if I commit to it. So let me see what else I can do. And get into a circle of people, get into a community where other people who are similar to you are not winning the Olympics, but they're achieving things that you go, it's just there, just outside you. So if they can do it, surely I can do it. Then just meet people, learn from them, surround yourself with people who are doing this type of things that you want to do. And then you got to be a little bit courageous and risk the failure of not achieving it. And then when you fail, because you're not going to be perfect, you just have to just decide again to do something else and just go again.
Yeah, it's funny because I think I was scrolling through Instagram. I think everybody does it, and there's so many fitness motivational things that almost make you feel guilty, you know, you're a bit, oh my
Yeah.
God, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. And I think just hearing you saying, yeah, I'm taking this month easier, and I think it's encouraging because we don't necessarily need to start full on. That's
No,
it.
you can't. Yeah, you can't. Look, one of the biggest things you're going to learn if you start listening to the people who like run ultra marathons or they row across the
Mhm.
world, whatever they is they have massive times of rest and recovery, you know.
Yeah.
And to most people that might look like being lazy, and they themselves might feel like they need to do more. But actually, the ones who succeed, you do all of your growing when you're recovering. You don't do it when you're punishing yourself on the track. You do it that night when you sleep. You do it through your diet, and you do it when you're resting on the couch on your rest day. You know, so like those who are smashing the kilometers, they might look like that for 3, 4, 6 months, but I guarantee if they're going to enjoy success, they're going to take a long period of time off.
Yeah, I think the social media is quite interesting because I feel like everybody is motivated there. And uh, speaking of social media, I took out 6 things that I found interesting, and I wanted to ask you about them. So it's like a myth in fitness. So there are 6 different things that I find interesting, and I will start with my whatever favorite because especially I saw a lot of Instagram videos for ladies. They want to have this round bum, you know, and myself, for example, I have hip dips, and their exercises on YouTube or on Instagram, they teach you, okay, you have to do this for I don't know how long, you're gonna have your round butt. And I truly believe that doesn't work because I did try them for like 2 weeks and nothing happened. So I wanted to ask you, what do you think? Do you think we can get rid of or fix this hip dip and by doing those exercises, or it's just
Fix
for
the
the
hip dip.
visualization?
Is that what you said?
So you know when you have uh, ladies, we all want to have that round bum, especially now on Instagram. Everybody is looking to look like that. And I was watching this Instagram influencers that they teach you how to have a round butt, even if you have hip dip. So it doesn't look the same. So they tell you, okay, do this, this, and this, and you will get rid of them. And I wanted to ask you, is there any chance that you get rid of them, or it's just
I mean, there is a deep anatomy that people have in the skeletal system that will determine a certain amount of their muscle shape, their muscle
Mhm.
length, their tendon length. So effectively a more efficient lever, so a bigger joint will have a longer tendon and a smaller muscle because the efficient lever, the engine doesn't need to do that much work because it's really efficient. It's like a long ankle joint or a long heel bone.
Mhm.
So Achilles tendon can be nice and long. The muscle doesn't need to be very big.
Mhm.
So that person is potentially always going to have a skinny, slim leg, calf, we'll say, because the opposing, somebody who has a short heel close to the ankle bone, which is a really inefficient lever,
Mhm.
that's then going to need a much bigger amount of force to shift it. So
Mhm.
genetically, they're going to have a bigger muscle, a smaller
Okay.
tendon. So that muscle is just going to be simply bigger in like cross section or whatever.
Okay,
Now
got
that
it.
bigger muscle is going to be a slower runner because running is explosive. It's much more springy. The
Mhm.
skinny leg will be a springy tendon, probably a little bit faster. So you'll have long distance runners. Caribbean genetics will be sprinting. African will be good
Mhm.
for and this is just the way the genetics is. But then Polynesians and Scandinavians who have different shaped bones, they've got really chunky legs. Just simply need to be bigger. So
Okay.
and then that principle repeats itself at different joints, shoulder joints, knee joints, potentially the hip joints, depending on the bony structure of the
Okay.
hip, the width of the hip, shape of the hip, the head of the femurs, the shape of the femurs.
Mhm.
So to some degree, the answer is definitely not. You're not going to change some of it, but there's other stuff where it absolutely you can change it. And there's no way we can really know what way you are because you can't x-ray muscle and bone at the same time. You get a scan, but that's still not going to tell you what kind of your genetic makeup you have.
Mhm. Mhm.
Especially around the hip. The hip is too close knit. It's too it's too there's too much going on for you to be able to dissect and say that the glutes should be a certain shape because your bones are this genetic. It's much easier at limb joints because you can see the shape of the bone and the muscles. So the answer is yes, you can change it in a purely theoretical way. Now, in the physical world, you might have to work way harder than somebody else. You may have to put in more time. You may have to travel further to your gym. Your gym may not have the right equipment or may have a limited amount where you're not getting enough novel stimulus over the years. You may need to do it for 6 months, for 6 years to get a certain way. You might have to undo a previous life of certain habits and certain neurological coordination patterns. You know, you got to reteach them. Like there's a lot of stuff to go in. The answer is in theory. The answer is in theory, yes, you can change it. It's definitely got a limit as to how much you can change it. But then in the real world, it's a very different answer.
But how about the should we train and diet for our own body type?
No, you should train and diet for your goals.
Good. Nice.
So if you want to be a runner to do ultra running marathons, you need to train for that and you need to fuel for that. If you want to look good and look good in a bikini, you need to sort of figure out what kind of training works for you. Some girls are really super fit through dancing, you know, and they eat respective to that. They don't need to go near the gym, but they just do enough activity, enough body movement, and that does it for them. So your body type is a bit of a, you can change, your body type is going to change as you get older because you just age, you just get less and less capable.
Okay. And regarding aging, this was my next one. So as we all do age, should we be mindful of exercising as we are more prone to injury as we are aging, or shall we keep the same pace as we are used
to? No, it's a bit, you definitely can't keep the same pace. It depends how much older you're talking. The key is to exercise when you're young and maintain that and push off the fatigue, push off the old age, push off because there's a threshold, right? If you're above the threshold and you break a bone, while you're resting and recovering, you're going to drop a little bit. As long as you've got enough muscle mass and coordination and capabilities, you're going to bounce back nice and quick. But if you're below that threshold going into the bone break, and then you break a bone and now you're dropping even lower, you don't have enough of an engine. You don't have enough of a fuel, of a reserve tank to deliver the next stage of your recovery. So you're going to whittle away. You can potentially put on weight. You're going to do a lot of other things. And then your mind is going to go, and in a sense of your hope, your motivation will drop. The mountain will become that much higher, and you're probably not going to have a massive success. So the key is to, again, find something that you love exercise-wise and do that. If you were to read all the science in the world and go, I just want to be as fit as possible when I'm older, you'll need to do a bit of resistance training for compound lower body stuff for sure, at least once a week. Some upper body push-pull to keep your upper back and your spine and your rib cage in good shape. Zone 2 training at cardio level, so in that 50 to 60% heart rate zone, doesn't matter what you do. And if you want to go deep into the science, you need to do a little bit of irregular high-intensity interval training just to keep that system rolling, keep your glycogen uptake and all that. There's a process there that helps. That's specific with aging, but the resistance is going to be the key because you're going to need your joints and your bones to be robust as you get older. They're going to diminish. So you want them to start finishing from as high a level as possible rather than from a sort of an average or less than average sedentary office kind of style body, lack of a better term.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. That's good. And one thing that is specifically probably now in Dubai, especially because it's quite warm and we're sitting indoors mainly. Tell me what's your take on sitting? Everybody's saying sitting is bad. You should constantly do something, constantly move. I myself, I like to move. I've always had a lot of energy and I like to move around, and it's hard for me to sit. But what do you think? Is sitting that bad?
It depends how you're spending the rest of your day. Like if you're only sitting, then you're effectively just not exercising, whether you're sitting or lying down or standing. Like it's the sedentary, the lack of movement, the lack of exercise that you're doing. If you're somebody who trains 4 or 5 times a week, and sitting is when you switch off, relax, let your joints recover, let your circulation replenish, blah, 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 then sitting is a necessary tool. If you're somebody who has to have a job and you got to sit at the desk, then you have to sit. You just need to figure out a way to nourish your body, nourish your bones, your joints through movement, through overload, some other way in the week. So it's fine to sit as long as your body is, you're nourishing your body through some level of movement throughout the week. And the movement should be some level of progressive overload. So it's not just exactly the same as it was last week and for the last 2 years. Don't just walk around the block the same way with your dogs every day and let that be it. Push yourself. A little, just has to be a little bit. It doesn't have to be a massive amount, but the level of progressive overload should be part of a movement plan. But that's for the people fortunate enough to be.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, definitely. Well, I know you run a lot, and I wanted to ask you, is running bad for your knees?
No. So again, sedentary lifestyle, poor mobility through your ankles and your hips, excessive body weight, weak, unconditioned joints, a lot of impact on top of all of those things. That's what's bad for your knees. Like there's a guy right now running from South Africa to the north of Africa. Do you know?
Oh,
Yeah, he's an English guy trying to become the first person to run the length of Africa. And he's about a third of the way. So like, what's the argument there? Running is absolutely not bad for your knees. Arguably, our ancestors ran, whether they were hunting or running away from stuff, and they didn't have any way of repairing their knees. What's not good for your knees is just lack of use, just sedentary. So absolutely, there's people who, when they run, they get pain. So they should potentially look at something else. That's individual. But on the overview, as the humans that we are, no way, running is not. You should be able to run. Like, for the simple case of that once in your life where you have to run to evade danger, you should be able to run without falling straight over. You'll see videos of people coming out of shopping malls in the US, they run across and they just fall. Like they just cannot run. Like that is, you're dead. You're done. If there's a problem, if the world is ending and you have to run, you're the first being eaten by the zombies.
but what if you had a knee injury?
I mean, you obviously want to get the injury assessed. If it's a proper, you hurt it. If it's an accident, then the recovery shouldn't be too difficult. If there's an acute issue, get a physio to assess it, figure out the structure, and then just follow the plan. If it's knee pain that just gets in the way when you try and run, there's a bunch of things you can try. Strengthening will be always number one. Building up your capacity from whatever you can tolerate. And then after that, like later down the line, you're looking at getting your run assessed or getting insoles. Obviously, there's a certain percentage of people who just get pain no matter what they do. So running's not good for them. But as a vast sweeping statement, running is, for the humans in general, running is not bad for your knees.
Oh, that's great. I love it. I learned so many new things here, and I enjoy it because there's so much information out there, and even with personal trainers, you don't know, it's hard to find someone that's good for you, good for your goals. You hear so much information, you don't know what to believe. Is it good? It's not good. And as well, because we're close to the end of today's discussion, I wanted to ask you, because you are an educator, you do have courses on life of education as well. One of them I'm taking now, which is quite nice, the NLP one. And I wanted to ask you, from your experience as a PT and as well, looking around, what could be some skills that a new instructor, either a Pilates instructor, yoga instructor, any type of instructor in fitness, should have in order to make a positive impact in their day-to-day job?
Like that's the $1 million question, because there's so many skills you need there's two parts to the word personal trainer, right? There's the personal, You got to be a good human, a good communicator, good understander, empathetic. You got to be all those things, and there's loads. And then there's the trainer, and you got to be a good trainer. But who's your client? What's your niche? Are you training pregnant women, or are you training athletes? Like, there's a whole set of different things in that word as well. So I would firstly say, if you're brand new, figure out a niche that you want to help, something that actually lights you up, and try and focus on that. Expand your knowledge and expertise on that. Expand your network on that. From a business building perspective, I would suggest getting a job with a big corporate, like a Fitness First or someone like that to begin with, where you just have to get in and try and work with people that are there. You don't need to worry about your sales, your conversions, your churn. Like, you do have to maintain your clients' retention, but let somebody else look after the sales and marketing to begin with. You just try and get hours of working with people and learning about people and learning how you deliver communication skills and how you get difficult people to do things and how you adjust your strategy for this type of person and different for that person. And then when you're ready, when you're happy, then go and do the freelance thing, and then go find your crew, find your sport, find whatever it is. But look, it's so hard. I don't think people understand how difficult it is to be a business person, a sales, a marketer, a finance person, and then know all the human science, and then be able to communicate. It's really difficult. So my advice would be, starting off as a PT particularly, get a job in a big company, get loads of time in front of people, and then when you're confident in your own sales ability, then go make the leap, go work for yourself or go work in a smaller thing, and then focus in on a niche, figure out what you love, and just triple down on that.
I love it. That's amazing. Thank you so much. And how about PTC? I saw you guys changed the room, everything, changed the program. I took the program. I love to come Saturdays in the morning. I love Chris' class. And why did you change it? I mean, it's something that you're looking to. I know I've done the 6-week challenge as well with the fitness and nutrition. That was amazing. So do you have anything new coming up, or is it a surprise?
Yeah, well, look, the big change happened over Eid, where we refurbished the room, but because that was, if you'd seen the facility that we're in now 4 years ago, this is a vastly different place, and we've not been happy with it really since then. We made a change after COVID. We painted the walls ourselves. We did it. It was a full DIY job. Myself and Chris are doing everything out of our back pocket. We've not had any investment since day one. So everything that we do is, like, you've seen the gym. It's not a Armani gym. It's a Connect. It's like, this machine doesn't match that machine, doesn't match that machine. And that's just the nature of our history. So this summer we said, look, now is the time to make the changes. It's quiet. We want to refurb the room. We got a brand new design in. We matched that with a new program. So now the new program is going to be basically in 3-month cycles. So that even if people love the gym, they just want to sign us up for 10 years, their physiology is going to get used to what they're doing. So now our program is a bit more scientifically geared, where every 3 months there's a different energy system being targeted. And again, that's something that we've wanted to do for a while, but we've just had a big, long checklist of things to get through. So we wanted to make the changes. We just decided, let's do a complete revamp.
It looks amazing. So anyway, I will post in the caption the link and everything where everybody can come. I hope they will come to the classes because they're really nice. I haven't tried the burn classes, but I did try the other one and I loved it. And thank you again so much. I'm sorry I kept you quite a little bit longer than I should.
No, that's good.
Yes, it was lovely chatting with you, and I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, thanks so much, Anna. Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me. Let's do it again anytime.
Amazing. Great.